let's see if I've worked this out. Right, I should be live again from somewhere. I'll change the thumbnail at the end. Hopefully this has worked out. And if you found me, then ideal. Let's see. There's David Brody, and David, if you just missed the absolute carnage of just 1 minute ago, I've made an absolute Doug's dinner of this. There's Lee J back, he's found me from the previous one, good stuff. Yeah, I don't know what I've done, I felt everything was good to go, and obviously not, but this is the joy of it all. So hopefully I don't end up sideways after my drams, but we'll just need to wait and see. I've got a new setup in here as well, you can see with the new chair in the office, but that's no excuse because I'm just using my phone, which is here, and then my iPad to kind of go in between both sides of the, so I can see the chat going, and I can also just use my phone. Unfortunately, I don't have a big setup, a big rig to have a nice, everything just set to press play and record, and to try and position things and so forth, and move books and whiskey, and I've got all these challenges, but we'll get there one day, we'll get everything set up, so it's like case I just click a button and I'm ready to go. David, sorry for breaking one of your prestigious glasses as well. It was one of my favourites, my Capita from Bunavon, so a trip will be getting booked early next year. I'm going to come back and get another one after a warehouse station, so hopefully you're still in that day, I'll make sure beforehand. Peter Frank saying we're back again. Stevie Gibson, evening guys, not sure how long I'm in for, but like massive hello Stevie, hope you're well buddy, hopefully see you at the Glasgow Whisky Festival, maybe bump into you again in Edinburgh and get a wee dram or two. So the kind of idea of tonight, even though it just says Kevin Grant and Whiskey is going live, the kind of plan is I've got loads of samples, I've been getting sent loads of samples, and just finding the time to get through them's always been a bit of a challenge. So I thought tonight, why not go live, pick a few of them, and just by sheer chance, it was a set that was sent to me by Paul Whiskey Toasts. His name is, he runs his own kind of wee business, and what he does is it's all online tastings, and he sends the drams out to you. And every time you have a dram and you go, for instance, you have your first dram, you make a toast to something, and then in the second dram, all the way through until you get 5 or 6, you always toast to something different. So it's quite a good wee idea, and I had a wee lock-in a few months back and really enjoyed it. So chatting to him about some whiskies that I hadn't tried and so forth, and he was like, I've got them, I'll send them out. You know, it's one of those ones you just think, that'll never happen, and sure enough, these were sent out probably about a month or so ago, and this is me just kind of getting round to them. So what I'll do is I'll kind of chat about what they are, and kind of go through the way I taste whiskey. Like everyone I think has different ideas on how to do it, and there's different ways to do it, but I'll just go through the way that I smell, nose and taste whiskey and see how we get on. The whiskies that I have here, I've not tried any of them in the sense of I've got a Cragganmore, a Benrinnes, an Ardmore and an Auchentoshan, but they are slightly different in the sense that the Cragganmore is a 1995 26-year-old, bottled in 2022. The Benrinnes is a 2007, bottled in 2022, it's a 15-year-old. And then there's an Ardmore 31-year-old from 1990, bottled 2022, and there's an Auchentoshan 10-year-old, which I can't find out too much information on. I was looking for that. If you watch my video from last week, there's this fruit fly still kicking about. I just seen him try and land in my glass, but I've got my wee Aquavitae toppers on them just to make sure that doesn't happen. Donna Pass Whiskey, good evening, buddy. Good to see you here. So I'm going to go through kind of just the ways I'm going to go. So I'll put a wee line, I'll turn them round for everyone, in fact I'll make it easier. Hopefully you might be able to see the colours, because that's going to keep me in check for the drams that I'm going to have. So if we go left to right, I think it's right to left on the screen. The red is the Cragganmore, the blue is the Benrinnes, black is Ardmore, and silver is Auchentoshan. And there's Adrian in as well. Adrian, good to see you, buddy. So first thing I'm going to go for the Cragganmore. I'm just going to go straight for it. This is old. Say 1995 bottle, 2002 is a 26-year-old at 54.7%. That's all I kind of really know. We look at Cragganmore as well. Diageo, Speyside. I think 1869, John Smith, the founder. But we're going 26 years old at cash in 54.7%, which has still held its ABV very well. The colour of it's great. So one of the first things I'll do when I'm doing a sample, I've kind of just jumped ahead and just gone into kind of natural mode of sipping whiskey. First thing I like to do is look at it, see the colour. Can we tell about maybe cask influence in there? Has it been a busy cask? Has it been sherried, wine? Is it a really active bourbon cask and things? So looking at that, I'm going to suspect there's a sherry influence in here, especially for its age. I'll then have a wee swirl in the glass and I'll look at the legs, and the legs being there just to see if they're taking their time to go down, and they look quite thick to me. I don't know how good the camera will be on maybe picking that up in my Kalila glass. Don't shout at me, David, I'm sorry. I would have had a Bunnahabhain glass in here, but big idiot here decided to break it, didn't he? And then I'll go in for a wee nose. And having that first sniff, and you think if you smell whiskey at 54%, 55% ABV, I'm just not getting that at all. It's weird. If this was put in front of me in a blind tasting, I'm putting this down at the 43 mark. Somewhere around there, there's nothing really grabbing me in. There's nice softer notes to it. There's a wee bit of funk there. But it's a kind of clean grassy note that comes through as well. I don't think I've even tried Cragganmore in the sense that the core range. I don't think I've ever had a core range Cragganmore. There's Ronnie in as well. Ben, how you doing? Buddy just back from a curry. Maharajas, I hope you enjoyed it. It's a good curry shop there. Me Moz in as well. How you doing, Mum? Where's Roy? I think that's actually somebody's name. Where's Roy? That's quite funny. And I'll always have water with me as well to keep me going. Is that wee fruit fly flying at me there? So what I'll do is, I'm quite nosed that I'm enjoying it. I've got no alcohol hit. I've got a wee bit of maybe chocolate coming through. Funky. A wee bit dirty. It kind of... The thing with the Cragganmore that I have is not having a kind of core range product to go alongside it to know what Cragganmore is like. So I think this will be my first kind of introduction to Cragganmore, and I feel maybe a wee bit spoiled at a 26-year-old. Well, let's try this first. Let's see if we get in the palate, and I'll kind of talk through how I go that way. Slange everyone, hopefully you've all got something in the glass as well tonight. That's really good. It's quite a cappuccino froth I get from that finish on the palate as well. Still sherried. It's slightly drying off at the end there. It's a thin finish but thick on the palate, if that makes sense. It's got a lot going on. I can feel myself just wanting to draw the cheeks in to get more, but again, no alcohol burn from it, no like I need to add water. I'm going to add water anyway, because I think for the ABV it might change, but for higher ABV whiskey, I find that the longer it's in a cask, it's had that more time to interact with the wood, and I feel that higher ABV sits a lot better if it's been in there for 20-30 years, that it takes a lot of the alcohol out, even though it's still saying 54%, but we're getting a lot more interaction from wood. And I find that's what's happened here. And that's going to change when I get to the other one, because I think the Auchentoshan 10-year-old is 58%. So we're looking at that of 16 years of a difference, and I think you'll get a bit more cask influence, a bit more that kind of alcohol hit from it.
So I'm seeing, has anyone tried this before? Let's have a wee look and see. Don't pass by say, cousin Kevin doing a pre-game show for Roy. Do you know, I didn't even appreciate it was Thursday's thing until the wee icon went on earlier yesterday to say they were coming on. So I'll keep it short and sweet that I don't overrun that at all. So because I'll want to run in and see what Ralphie's got to say to it and Roy. So we'll be finished well before then. So I've seen someone there just talking about. Stevie says, so he's tried the distiller edition at the Diageo Masterclass on Friday, and it was a similar nose, Kev. It's right, okay. I'm really enjoying the nose on it. As I say, it's got that kind of wee funk, kind of wee bit of kind of heavy. It's got a kind of slightly Craigellachie-ish nose to it as well, but I think that might just be me, just because I'm looking at the age of it. So the thing that I'll do with the tasting as well is, I'll put his wee hat back on just now because that wee fruit fly's getting up close and personal here, and I don't want him drowning in a 26-year-old Cragganmore. It wouldn't be the worst way to go for him, right? But the way that I'll do this is I like to have a few drams in front of me and jump in between. So I usually go across the four of them, and then I'll jump back and forth in between them after. Instead of drinking them one by one, I think it's always good to keep your palate guessing. Try to keep it going, especially for the high ABV. If you had, say, a 40% in there, you maybe just start with that and keep it to get the palate going. So I'm going to move on now to the Ben Rinnes 2007. It's a 15-year-old, 55.6%. Again, another Speyside, another Diageo, and one I don't even think in fact, that's a lie. I think I tried the Flora and Fauna Ben Rinnes. It was maybe some point this year, and when I was in St Andrews, I found it in a bar, and I think it was £5 a dram. And I thought I'd never tried one. I tried it and I enjoyed it at that time. So we go back, and these are two completely different noses. We look at the colour again. I see a more bourbon influence on this to me. Not as much sherry at all. It's a very much cleaner. There is still that wee bit of funk there, a bit of dirt, a bit of heaviness, a bit of meatiness. But there's always that cleanliness as well. There's a bit of like kind of freshly cut grass, kind of, what's that? I see like flat champagne, if that makes a sense, like kind of that sweeter note, not like lemonade, but there's something a bit more to it. So we'll get Ben Rinnes as well for how good that is in the sense of the distilleries being made. I think back in 1826, Alexander Edward, being such an entrepreneur, I think Craigellachie, Altmore, Dallas Dew, Oban and Yokeries took kind of fame from them, and the Flora and Fauna came from it. So they use, I think the Ben Rinnes was used predominantly for blends, and that's why we don't see it anywhere. So I think it's used in a lot more blends than it is in the actual bottles we see. Normally bottles we see are Flora and Faunas, and I think that frustrates me at times, because usually when you find these malts that go into blends they're cracking, you know, right? They've got this really good base to it, and you would like to see more. But when we look at, like, I love Craigellachie Spirit, and I think when we look at this has got a kind of similar meatiness. I think they've got worm tubs here as well, Ben Rinnes. So what else am I missing here? Asa Gray's popped in. Good evening, buddy. Hope you're well. So Stevie's saying that was only 40% that he tried at the time, and it was still good. Okay, so it must be a good raw spirit that they've got there that they're able to use. There's Craig in as well. How you doing? Hopefully, if you've seen on the Barflies chat, I got your Barflies chat, Craig's putting the bus on again if you're heading to session 1 at the Glasgow Whisky Festival this November. Put a bus on to go back to Akbar. So if you're able, if you know someone and you've not got Facebook, reach out to them and say you want to get on the bus, and then we can get it all sorted. But if you have Facebook, make sure you click on the link in the Barflies chat that you're going, so we know how big a bus to get. So back to this, it's lighter but still a bit dirty. It's quite creamy, like there's a kind of creamy note to it. as I say, grassy, quite hay, flat champagne. But again, the ABV being 55.6, I don't get that. It's a 15-year-old. That's really good. It's quite buttery, but thick, viscous. The legs on it again, they're very prominent in it. It's a really good cask. That's very enjoyable. That's the kind of whiskey that I really enjoy. I'm really into a bourbon cask just now, matured whiskey, and that's what I had. That's my wee palate cleanser still sitting there. Let me put a wee hat on him because I've got a spare one. But that's very thick, kind of chewy, which I get with usually the worm tubs. You'll get a Craig Elgin, and I think that's got a kind of similar body to it, a similar texture, which for me that's really enjoyable. I like that. I like the first one. So what I would do here now, from having just sipped the first two, just had a wee nip from both of them, I would then smell them side by side to see, even though they're different, but sometimes you can pick out better notes. They're just two completely different animals. This has got a bit more floralness to it now. Kind of Scottish, kind of Highland heather. This one's getting a little bit sharper. But I'll put their hats back on. As I say, this fruit fly's not going to, it's not going to end well for it, I don't think. What else have we got in there? I think Inverurie Whisky Shop have a live too with Mariella from Arran, so yeah, if she is on just now, you'd probably get a better live with her than me talking absolute gibberish and filming the back of the wall and not me and all that. I'm pretty sure she'll have a better setup than myself. It's quite funny. What else have we got? David Brody, hello. So Craig's asking David, you come into the Glasgow Whisky Festival. David, you better go because it'll be fun, and you'll be missing out if you don't. So moving on to the third dram. Oh, easy beeps. And this is the Ardmore 31-year-old. Ardmore is predominantly peated. I think it's the only distillery that's always just stuck to that regime of just being peated throughout their full history, and used, I think, they try and source local peat as well. So Ardmore, Beams from Tory in a Highland. This is the 1990 and bottled in 2022, 31-year-old. I was born in 1990, so it's quite rare to have whiskey of a similar year. This is 58.1%. So if you go back to the Cragganmore, what I was saying about higher ABVs and older casks, I think works really well. That you're getting a lot of kind of full flavour in there. So the Ardmore here, I'm looking forward to it. The Ardmore, I think, predominantly was made for the Teacher's Blend, which was like the best-selling blend for a while, but I think they've subsequently started to fall back in sales. But Ardmore itself's gone up. You go into supermarkets, it's the same Tesco, you'll see Ardmore on special and things like that. And I think for introductory whiskey, especially to peat, for how light the peat is in Ardmore, about 12 to 15 ppm, parts per million, you've got a good easy way of going in. Instead of someone saying there's Lagavulin, there's Port Charlotte, and there's Ardbeg and so forth, you could ease your way in with a bit of sweeter note. Even though Lagavulin for a lot of people was a gateway in, but then the price goes up and you start venturing elsewhere and finding different ones. David's saying he's only approved work trip, aka Jolly, is at the Midlands in a couple of weeks. That'll be brilliant. Molasses is in, hello everybody, good to see you. And Whiskey Mastery live. Adrian is saying that he's drinking an Ardmore 2009 in a glass for him tonight as well, so that'll be good to see what you think of that. So we'll get this on the nose. Looking at the colour, there's definitely going to be kind of sherry or a different style of cask involved here. Looking at the legs, there's not much going on there, really sticking up there, so I'm thinking this might be pretty good on the palate. So we'll get it on the nose. That, I want to lock that in for a second. If you ever smell old whiskey, it'll be great if you have old whiskey and you can put a wee hat on and just give it time to sit in the glass after it's been poured. Those legs have just started to fall now, but my first little incline of going in there was, I wouldn't say I know what old whiskey smells like, but this has that old nose to it, and for that I usually get an oil painting, kind of freshly oil paints, Play-Doh, but then the sweetness comes through in the background. Is, for me, the kind of realm of an older bottling. I've had that a few times with whiskies, not Ardmore, this is my first old Ardmore, but with other whiskies, and it's quite just brought me straight back there to that to those moments of trying other things. You kind of get through that peat just subtly coming through, just the end of the embers of the coal fire, just at the very, very end, just when it's coming down and you're walking away and a wee bit of wind just blows your way and you get that wee sniff of a wee burnt out fire. It's sweet. There's a lot more kind of hay notes in this, like farmland. A little bit of potpourri, a little bit of kind of Parma violet as well. And I would even say like cola bottles, you know, the sweets, the wee gummy sweets, cola bottles, not the fizzy ones, just the normal ones. There's Mr. There's multi-mission on as well. He's you're safe in here, buddy, but we later on, if you're doing one of your quizzes, then good luck. Good luck. The first one of the after summer break. Hopefully you can ease us in if you've done one. Stevie's saying there is as well, is Ardmore similar to the decant the drink bottles in for the treat to you? So this, the Ardmore could be, I've not tried that, I like the decadent stuff, which at the festivals where I'm hoping to try a lot more of it. But this has got a weird nose, it's good, but it feels like there's more to it, so we'll get it on the palate. I think that'll be the best way. But the legs, as I said, are very, very clingy. Slightly dry. The alcohol on the back of the palate, I felt a little bit more there compared to the other ones, even at 58.1%. Slightly short finish. So there's Menno saying, off duty tonight. If Roy failed last week's quiz for the Vin Pub, he might as well quit. Right, I'll try and bring it up to him when he's on later on. It's got a good nose, but the palate, I feel like I'm missing something there. Slightly short. Wee tinge to it. There's something there that I just can't get. I'm just smelling these side by side. These are the closest in age, right? Because one's 31 and one's 26. The Cragganmore is, on the nose, is better for me just now. The Ardmore's a different game because it's got that kind of, it's like a peaty note to it, but we're going to come back to it for sure. And then kind of try them in different orders and see how that changes the palate as well. We'll add a bit of water. So moving on to the Auchentoshan, or Auchentoshan, depends where you're coming from for this one. 10 years old, 58.8% ABV, another Beam Suntory, and it's a Lowland. Kind of famous for their triple distillation as well. I think it's only, can't remember who else does triple distillation in Scotland. You've got Hazelburn from Springbank, they triple distill on an unpeated level, and I don't know if there's anyone else that I can remember, but I know this is just how the way they run. So on the nose of this, 10 years old, Auchentoshan Lowland. This is sweet, there's kind of shortbread on that. The colour for me is more the tinge of an active bourbon cask at that age. I don't think it's had much to it, especially for the ABV. I'm going to say this has had its full 10 years in that. But there's a kind of shortbready, caramel shortbread note, which smells great. Kind of cleanness coming through in the backdrop. I'm trying to think what that is. It's kind of like a little, it's light, but at the same time, what would I say, like a burnt caramel note. It's kind of maybe brown sugar just slightly overdone, popping through. But that kind of biscuity shortbready note, it just right at the forefront is what's getting me. It's a very quick finish. It's quite light. There's not. It smells more active in the nose than it does in the palate. It's light. It's kind of the slight kind of crumbled shortbread still kicks around in the palate, but that's kind of really it. There's not much more going on for me. And they just smell different as well. It's magic. Whiskey's just great, right? In that sense, like whiskey's so subjective in the sense that you can tell someone you'd love this whiskey. Oh, you would absolutely love this Cragganmore. It would be up your street, and just because I like it doesn't mean you have to like it. Same with food, right? You can go out to restaurants and everyone orders different meals, and the way that I used to do when I hosted the tastings in my last job is when I had people around the table, 5 or 6 people, the first thing I would always say prior to starting my my tasting was, would anyone like a tea or a coffee? And even if they said no, but if you did, well, how would you take your coffee, for instance? And you'd have one person say, I'd have mine with milk. One person would say, I'll just have mine's black. Someone would say, I'll just have 2 sugars, and so forth. So everyone has a different palate straight away, and you're not working with kind of just 6 milk and 2 in their coffee. And I always find that fascinating because it's the same in an office environment. If you ask people, would you like a coffee or a tea, you're always going to get different orders, right? And I think that works with whiskey as well, that your palate will develop to a way that you start to enjoy them. And whiskey as well, the first ever time I tried whiskey, I never ever went, this is the best drink I've ever had. It was always, oh, what is this and how can you drink it? And you need to develop your palate, right? So I think having that kind of chat with other people that have different likes in whiskey and different passions and what their favourite is, I love that. I love just speaking to people about whiskey and how they like it and why they like that certain whiskey. And there's some, like Jura, I'm still not sold in Jura. There's times it's been good and it's times it's been bad. It's just very inconsistent for me, which is frustrating. But I wish there was more whiskey that I didn't like, so it would make it cheaper for me. Like, what have I missed here? There's Reb came in. How are you, buddy? Good to see you. Ben's asking, Mr. Brody, the Midlands is one of your favourites, and Ardbaggy usually issues some great drams for under the table. There we go. Some insight information for going down there. I'm going to take the wee lids off. I'm just going to let this fruit fly have some fun, because why not, eh? So what I like to do now when I do this, I will now go between the whiskies and try them in different orders after each other, because I think your palate develops and I think you can find different flavours and different things. Because there's some that, the Auchentoshan there for instance, there's a couple of things that I just couldn't really pinpoint that I would like to get, and I think I can maybe try and find some different notes by jumping back and forth. Michael Wood, evening Kevin, everybody just jumped into the back row for a while.
got a drop of Indra, my first taste, a drop of the Stratheden from the Lost Distillery, and barbecue for Big Pete. Amazing, buddy. That sounds like a good wee lineup as well. It's ones I don't think I've actually tried. Big Pete maybe is the only one, but the other ones I seen the Indra post on Dramface. So hopefully, I think when I get a wee invite back to Roy's, we'll have one on the shelf that I can try. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back and try number 3, which is the 31-year-old Ardmore. That's became a bit more settled, there's a little bit more smoke. The peatiness is just sitting there, it's very, very light. That oiliness is still staying there, as I say, that oil paint, that pastel paintings, which it reminds me of old whiskey. There's like what was that? It's like strawberry laces. That's what it is, strawberry laces. I can't remember what I said the first time, if it was cola bottles, one of them was, but there's a kind of strawberry laces note staying about there as well. I said strawberry laces and that fruit flies went straight for it. Oh, he's off. The Ben Rennes is very light now in comparison to this. And that kind of burnt caramel note, the burnt sugar, is what is the forefront now of this concoction. And the crazy thing is that these are all cask strength, right? But none of them smell cask strength. And these are putting a blind taste in front of me. I don't think I would have any above 50% ABV. I'd say they're probably all 46 or below. I think that can show what a kind of active cask can do to a whiskey. And it's also, I don't think the older the whiskey, the better the whiskey. I think I've had times I tried I was invited along to a tasting, and the 31-year-old Rosebank, the most recent one, was put out as one of the drams, and for me it was just okay. I would have been, if I spent the money in the dram for it would be behind the bar, I probably would have been a little bit deflated of it. I thought, oh, I could have got something a lot better, but it's good to try. And I think it's just, that's maybe stock that hadn't really been looked after. I know they've had 31-year-olds sitting there and they just went, let's get this bottled, let's bring this distillery back to where it should be. So you're still getting to try history, you're paying for that kind of side of the history of it, but it was just okay. And I think they were triple distilled, in fact, if I remember. Whiskey 101 is in as well. Who else have we got? Oh, I just jumped there. There we go. So I'm going to go back to the Cragganmore. The Cragganmore, it brings out different notes. There's a kind of more, I wouldn't say salad, but a more vegetable note to it, which is a good way. It's not a bad way. It's a kind of more lighter, fresher vegetable. Lettucey notes, if that makes sense. It's fresh. It's fresh without citrus, and I find in whiskey I usually kind of find citrusy things, but being older, there's just this different nose and profile to it. As I say, that ABV just it's not there. The Ben Rennes so far, I keep revisiting that, and that just smells magic. There's Jim, Whiskey Novice, just popped in there as well. Buddy, how are you? Good to see you. I am good. We're just on the 4 drams. Here is a Cragganmore 26-year-old, a Ben Rennes 15-year-old, an Ardmore 31-year-old, and Auchentoshan 10-year-old, all from these sample bottles. And again, so I'm going to just add a couple of drops of water. They say they're all higher ABV. I've tried them a couple of times without. And sometimes water, I think, does bring whiskey out, and sometimes it doesn't. And I've got a story about that.
So when I'm my job, we bottled a Macallan 26-year-old, and the man that overseen our whiskey was a man called David Boyd. He curated the Aberlour, Abuna and other whiskies and things. He's fascinating to listen to, and it's great to meet him. And he just talks about whiskey all the time, so I love him even more for that. But he came in one day and he was signing all the certificates for authentication for these bottles, because we could only bottle, I think it was 201. And he came in, I said, "Would you like a dram whilst you're here?" And he's like, "Aye, go for it." And given someone that's worked in the industry for 30-40 years, to try and give them a whiskey they've never tried is very difficult. But I knew we had a Daft mill in the back, and I gave him a wee dram of a Daft mill. Gave him a nice wee dram because he was in for the day, so it was maybe a bit bigger than your usual bar pour. So say it was a 30ml, just for talking sake, without even doing anything. He asked for water. I was like, "Yep, no problem at all." Brought him water, and he poured the same amount of water in the dram. So if there's 30ml of whiskey, he poured 30ml of water in without even trying it. And that's how he's always drank whiskey, because he says that's how he can smell whiskey and taste whiskey when they were looking at casks, because that's where you can find all the good in them and all the bad. And I just found that fascinating, because I always thought, "No, try it neat, do it this way, do it that way." And that was the other realisation, that drink the whiskey the way you like it and try it in different ways. I've still not done it, because I like trying it neat. I like trying it with a little bit of water, and then you can always add water to whiskey, but you can never take it away, right? So if you overspend your water in your whiskey, you're kind of stuck with it. It's hard to say to the barman, if you can, "I've put too much water in there, can you add a wee bit more 31-year-old Ardmore, please, just to top it off?" I don't think they'll be too pleased with that, if I'm being honest. What else have we got here? All good here. I'm still on the holiday right now. 10 minutes from Bladnoch. So Whiskey 101 Bladnoch is, I'd love to go there. It's one of my favourite whiskies just now as well. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's in running for my whiskey of the year at the moment, the Leora, which is the bourbon and bourbon and virgin oak, cask, which I just thought it blew my socks off. So let's jump in from a wee bit of water. There's Jim, Whiskey Novice, saying that as well. So the general rule of thumb is they'll drop it to about 35% ABV. Yeah, it doesn't suit me. I think being a whiskey buyer, maybe it's harder to do that with whiskey. But if you're maybe working in a distillery where you've got thousands of casks, and if you don't like it the first time, you can always chuck it away and get yourself a new dram out of it, then fine. But yeah, for us moral just consumers, it's a bit more difficult and heartbreaking to do. I'll do it one day. I will give it a wee experiment to see if it does change anything, but just now, looking at what's in front of me, I would be devastated if I'd done it and I never liked it. Whoa, that little contortion's changed, and I don't think it's the water. I think it's just maybe just I've had a wee sip and sitting on it, but again, that's smelling all the whiskies and going back to it. Whiskey 101, that'll be magic. If you go, I've got the Bladnoch Leora. How much have I got left? About half bottle, which I'm savouring, and I think I'll be quite gutted when that finishes, but I'll definitely replace it, because I know that's 52.2% ABV, so I'm just hoping if it stays the same, great, but it might change in batches for next year, but I'll definitely rebuy that. It's weird to say that this Old Contortion's got a leathery note to it now, and leathery for me is usually older whiskies. There's Adrian asking if these are the Scottish Gantry glasses. These are, we'll say the Gantry gifted me these, Adrian. They were never ever accidentally taken. They were a parting gift when I left, honestly, I tell you. There also might be a couple of them sitting in Isla somewhere, because I think I left them in the Airbnb that we're staying at as well. So they're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. Right, I'm going back in for this Auchentoshan first because I think there's a weird leathery note that's came through which I never got in the first instance. It's very sweet. It's that kind of biscuity. It's quite shortbread and caramel and burnt kind of caramel. It's okay. A wee fruit flies went in it as well. He's captured in there just now, so he'll make the decision in a minute if he wants to get out. Then no, he's quite happy in there. Okay. It's okay. It's not in the lineup out of the fours that it's really made me go, whoa, this is really good. And again, Auchentoshan is such an easy find with, I think, anywhere you go. A lot of barmen love it for mixing, making cocktails. You can find it in your supermarkets for I think it's the Triple Wood and the 10 and there's certain other ones that you can always pick up. It's readily available. But it's just okay for me. That Ardmore's that's just smelling better and better. That's stunning. The Cragganmore's still kind of light, not changed too much. What have I missed there? This one. Weekend Glasgow Whisky Festival. Yeah, so talking about the Glasgow Whisky Fest as well. Hopefully everyone in the chat just now is going while we can hopefully catch up. And it's generally my favourite festival of the year, the Glasgow Whisky Festival. I absolutely love it. It was great last year. I was able to meet Drew from Arizona. He came over, took him to we went to Deanston and things, and got to meet so many people from the community, especially when you look at the Roy's side of it and Aquavitae Barfly chat, how many people were there that you've seen on the chat and you talked all the time coming to there. So I love it for that side of things. You meet so many cool and amazing people and there's so many unbelievable drams on offer. And there's Stevie. What's Stevie saying? You love the Auchentoshan Triplewood. And the Triplewood I think is just it's okay. It's nothing. I actually don't have one. I don't actually have any Auchentoshan, and I see it all the time. You go into supermarkets, it's always there. But it's just something I don't go for. So the Cragganmore's kind of got a bit quiet. It's slowed down a bit on the nose. It's more the kind of hay and fields. It's okay as well. It's every whisky I talk about, that wee fruit fly just goes for it. It's as if if it knows. I think he's on the outside this time. I think my favourite so far is this Benrinnes. And it's weird because, some people always ask me, what's the oldest whisky I ever drank? Was it amazing? And a lot of the time it's not. There's some that I've drank, I think, wow, they've been really good, but it's hard, I think, to keep, when you see 50-year-old whiskies and things, it's hard to keep tabs of where those casks are lying within a distillery and the ownership changing hands over time, that the quality of it's cared for as much. And I think when you find something that's maybe, 12 to 20 years or maybe even 25, if you want to stretch that far, there's a lot of time you've got the same ownership and the same people working there, they're constantly looking after these casks. So I think sometimes they're just put out there. But that Cragganmore, as I say, it's one of the first times of my first experience with it. I don't dislike it. It's not. I just didn't know what I expected it to be. That leather's staying with that Auchentoshan. That's mad. There's a wee buttery note as well. So if we go back, the Benrinnes, very clean, very fresh. That Benrinnes is my favourite, definitely. Just had a wee lift back in on the Ardmore, the 31-year-old. And that's good. There's a weird, what is like a spearmint now coming through. And there's Reb saying, so Stevie's saying that the Benrinnes is better from the IBs. Yeah, as I say, this is the only thing I've ever tried. I think this is my first one after the 4-on-4. I haven't tried any other ones. Reb is saying he only has the Auchentoshan 18, won't be buying any more. So the distiller, it just doesn't take its own whiskey seriously. Yeah, I've kind of got, I think the same maybe. I think it's just for mass production more than anything else. Michael Wood, so keen to explore the variety. I think I prefer to spend on something different, but it is done. I select and light, so it's shrinking in the bottle. Buy to try. So Michael, I think, is talking to Whiskey 101. Sorry, I missed that. Donna Pass Whiskies agrees as well, saying yes, independent Benrinnes is wonderful. I think Benrinnes now, looking at that, is something I need to explore more. I think I'll be kind of jump out in the next auction, put a couple of bids on, just a couple of them, maybe if there's something kind of bourbon, if there's something sherry, to have them both and just see how I get on. Because I say Craig Elliott I absolutely love, and I think there's similarities from Benrinnes as there is to Craig Elliott for sure. That kind of meaty, heavier new make, I think similar to, I think they use worm tubs as well, which I think could make a huge difference to it. Jim's saying yet to have an Auchentoshan that has convinced me it isn't any good. I hear there are some good IBs out there, but I don't feel inclined to chase them. Yeah, I think that I'm the same. I've not spoke to anyone that's kind of came up to me and been sitting having a jam and went, does anyone want an Auchentoshan? You know, I think it gets overlooked quite a lot of the time and there's nothing out there. I don't think they've brought anything out that's kind of hit the market to the whiskey geek or the whiskey consumer that enjoys whiskey. I don't think they've brought anything out. And the weird thing is though, is they're triple distilled, that they've got such a market that they could change how whiskey can be looked at if they've done it properly. You know, they can bring out some product which is absolutely sensational. And they might do, and I've just not tried it right. But I think they're missing a wee trick in just bringing out a mass production. You know, Beam some Tory, just thinking that's where all the money's coming in just now, and everything else they can do what they want with it. What else have I missed there? And Peterhead Franks was saying, based on the Auchentoshan's I've had, I'm not in the front row to try either expressions. David Blue said he loves Auchentoshan, but like Jura, you've got to pass on the fodder. Supermarkets have a lot to answer for. Yeah, I've had a Jura before in a blind tasting, it was sensational. I had another one in a blind tasting and it was put to the bottom of the queue. It's totally inconsistent for me. And usually now I can go, that's a Jura, I can kind of pick it out. If it's bad enough, I can pick it out. Carmore did a good IB Auchentoshan, is what Adrian's saying from Whiskey Mastery, the Glasgow Whiskey Festival. I don't think I tried it. At the same time, I just don't turn around and go, oh, I'll try an Auchentoshan, but I think at the festival come up, I definitely will try some IBs. Ben's saying Auchentoshan's latest to propose building a huge maturation blending plant in Ayrshire. Right, so that could change things as well. Jeez Louise. Definitely give some seriously good indie out there, likewise with Dalyoo. Yeah, I think there's independent whiskey's flying just now, right? There's so much of it. But the price is obviously going up, especially with the LPA, the litres of per alcohol, just came in there on the 1st of August. I get that. It's okay in the nose, it's just nothing spectacular. It's good. It is good, but it's just not the best in the lineup. But again, we're looking at older whiskies and younger whiskies. That's the youngest one in the lineup. It's still got time to develop, but it's cask strength, so you're looking at, it's usually cask strength. I kind of see these casks being picked and chosen as good casks and not just out for the sake of it. So Whiskey World said he's enjoying the McLean's O's. That's a bottle I've not bought yet. It was definitely one on the radar from seeing everyone chatting about it and how much they're enjoying it. So I think that's one I need to pick up for sure. So Reb saying, so it's triple distilled, so it comes out the third still at over 80% ABV, packed down with flavour, then they dialed it down to 40% before bottling. So I think that if you're absolutely flooding whiskey things, I think it will completely change how the flavour works in that. Like, so say this Auchentoshan here is 58% and they've just decided to whack in 22% of water straight away, just pour 22% in. I think that will change the flavour, but if you're kind of drip feeding that in over time, maybe just over a day or so instead of just putting in the one hit, I think that changes the state of whiskey. If you can imagine dropping whiskey in just now, droplets all the time, it'll change the flavour, but if you just pour water in the whiskey, it just changes it a lot quicker. Right, I think I'm going to have my final wee slip of the Cragganmore and the Auchentoshan. See, the Auchentoshan changed quite a lot. See, that big kind of leathery note came in a wee bit. It's not cheesy, it's weird because it's a good mouthfeel and things like that. It's just something not hitting the spot in my nose, and I've got a big nose as well, so it's just not doing the right thing. That wee fruit fly is just, you can decide here, what one do you think? You're going straight for the Ben Rinnes. It's weird that the Cragganmore just hasn't really changed at all over its with water or been sitting in that glass. What have I missed here? Unfortunately, I'm going to Glasgow Whisky Festival, working on the Saturday morning, hosting the overseas communities from my local, off to Brussels for another whisky festival. Oh, that's multi-missions not making it over. That's a big one. But what it seems what you're doing instead of that is massive as well, especially for the community. So hopefully that'll be a great weekend for you, Menno. That'll be magic, and we'll all be leaves more whiskey for us though. So thanks and that, and I'm sure you'll not get any black eyes over there either, where you're if you're doing any quizzes to those guys. Where are we here? What have I missed? It's jumped again. Stevie Gibson saying, I'm sure if Ardmore will get better with time in the glass. Yeah, that Ardmore that's just definitely getting better. The thing with Auchentoshan, there's a lot going on, it's changing quite a lot. So I think there's, with that, for instance, triple distilled New Mix, there's a lot to kind of play with there. Hell's Wid's in, good to see you. Michael saying that Indre smells very interesting, definitely alcoholic fruit cup, rich but not dark, not citrus but fruit cup, even cucumber. Amazing. I love tasting notes. I think they're great. I love looking at tasting notes after I've had my dram. If I buy a new bottle and it's something that's put in front of me, I'll always say just pour it. I like to drink it, like to see what I can find, and then I have a look at the tasting notes. I don't, to the extent of, if you sit in a room and you says to someone, I can smell candy floss on that, everyone then kind of preempts their mind of I can usually smell that. So I like to have my own views and then go back, and sometimes you get close and you think, oh, I'm quite good at this, and then sometimes you get your smell and you read the taste notes and you're a mile off and you think, oh, I'm not very good at this. Lee J's asking how many can Akbar's seat. They can seat enough for us, don't you worry. There'll be enough lamb chops again for everyone. It's a cracking day. Now, so we're going to finish the Auchentoshan. there's a lot going on. I just can't kind of pinpoint it. It's kind of all over the place. And the only reason that I'm going to finish on the Ardmore is because it's lightly peated. The Benrinnes isn't. But I would say out of the two, they are two magical drams in different ways. I think this is, let's say, got a bit of sherry to it in the Ardmore, the 31-year-old. And then the 15-year-old Benrinnes, I think, is more kind of bourbon-led. Which I love. There's that kind of... what's that? This is like buttered toast now. Just some magical stuff going on. And that's just a wee few drops of water, but it's not really changed it much. I would say it's stayed quite similar from water to no water. G-Max saying late to the party, hope the whiskey is better than my golf last week. Well, I just had an all contortion, which was a bit close to your golf, I would say. I'm only joking. There was some good golf in there for sure. Just finishing on the Benrinnes. It's a 2007 15-year-old, 55.6%, and an Ardmore 31-year-old, 1990. Bottled in 2022, it's a 58% as well. So there's Jim saying he's going to pour a Benrinnes now. Power of suggestion, maybe the North Star Good Spirits Company. Right, okay. So as I say, I think now for me this is my kind of gateway into Benrinnes, and it's totally going to find independent bottles of it, see if I can at kind of good prices, because I think the only thing is I've ever seen, and I could be corrected, is the Flora and Fauna 15. I don't ever remember going out and looking at bars and seeing a kind of row, you see Ardbegs, you'll see a billion Ardbegs and a billion other things. I just don't remember seeing Benrinnes in a wee row and things. So I think independent, I'm going to go for it. And Peter Frank saying he's going to join him with a Cadenheads. That's right, okay. But the Ardmore now, I think it's just jumped. That Ardmore's stunning. The mouthfeel, the finish, the longevity of that Benrinnes was magic. It's kind of thick, it's viscous, it stays there, it's enjoyable, it's just got so many kind of positives to it compared to the Auchentoshan. I know they're two different games, right? They're two different whiskies, but it just shows, and that's, for me, whiskey's so simple, right? The simplicity of whiskey is unbelievable. Barley, water and yeast, and it's just depending on how you use those ingredients and your mechanics, and how you, for instance, if you're in a kitchen and you ask someone to make a steak for you, you ask a chef to make you a steak, they're all going to use that exact same ingredients that you've been given, but they'll make it in different ways. And I think that's how whiskey works, and it's trying to find your personal opinion on who makes the best whiskey to your palate. That's really good for me. I've enjoyed that. What have I missed there? Graham says, we did a 2008 Diageo first fill bourbon hoggies a couple of years ago. Leak light but proverbial, but fabulous liquids, matures fabulous in sherrywood as well. So there we go, Graham. If you're saying that it's cracking liquid, I trust your judgment in all my whiskey samples and drinking that I do. Excuse me, I'll definitely buying Benrinnes now. And a wee quick thing, tomorrow I'm putting a video out tomorrow. It's already pre-recorded, but it's going to be a Carn More. Now if you like porter beers, then this will be one for you. See, a bit different, a wee bit quirky. So before I finish this, I'm going to open a bottle whilst we're here and pour one, and then that'll get me set up, and good timing for jumping over to the real thing, Ralphie, because he's coming on next. So this here is a Glen Laird, 48% ABV, distilled in Scotland, matured and bottled in Scotland, and it's non-chill filtered. So I'll get this open just now. This was gifted me. I don't know if anyone ever seen before, but I won a competition online to do tasting notes for a whiskey company called Tricara or Straveg, and I've been doing that since February. They just send me out samples, and I do like this. I kind of nose them and things. It obviously take a lot longer to do it, and just kind of finished up there, and a wee bottle came through the door, and it's one of the tasting notes that I've done for them over the months, and they're sending us out to their Asian markets, and I've literally not opened it until now, so we're going to see how this goes. So this is going external to Asian markets only, and I'm quite excited. So let's see. See if we get a good pop. This is my favourite bit. I'll do it here, see if we get a good pop. Yes. Oh. I'll just give that a wee quick swirl of water. So it's 10 years old. It's a Highland single malt, and it's 10 years old. So what have I missed here? So that's now my blue one. Stevie's saying there's a Cadenhead's 15 Old Ben Rinnis out there as well, which is absolutely stunning. So I'll look out for that. If you're saying that, Stevie, I'll definitely have a wee look. And I'm hoping to in Edinburgh this weekend. So if I'm in Edinburgh this weekend, I'll maybe jump down and see if they've got anything. What else have we got? Good to remember that duty stamp. Is that Mr. Brody's those sharp eyes of yours, son? That's quite funny. Yep, so there's definitely a duty stamp on it for going away. It was bottled a wee while ago, I think, anyway. So the thing is, the notes I have here, because he did send me them through to say what they were, and I'll let you know this is what I had made of them. So on this, when I done my tasting notes for this whiskey, I take a lot of time. It is when you see tasting notes in a bottle, I kind of appreciate it a lot more now, because I can see it taking a lot of time, because it's it's your brand, right? You're not just going to jump out and go just say it tastes good and get it out there. There's a lot to it. So when I was getting sent sometimes 4 or 6 drams, you thought you could just do it tonight in an hour and just go get through it, but it takes a lot longer. So I was having to it was taking me an hour at a time, because you're sitting going through it, want to get it right. And what I put on this here, when they sent it through to me to say this is the one that we picked for, they still didn't tell me the whiskey. They've still not done that, which is I'm fine with, because I enjoy it. On the smell, I got Highland heather, floral and honey. So kind of looking at kind of more bourbony notes than on the smell. But none of the nose, it was very light. Soft strawberry jam, forest fruits, gooey fudge, Dunnage warehouse and dried wood shavings. The finish was a medium finish. There was not much spice. I said it was well behaved, leaving you wanting more. The standout flavours and maturation influences, I said, the nose is great here, and after every visit something else comes to light. Changes like the wind. The more I revisit, the more Dunnage, eggy, sulphur notes come through. And I'm a massive fan of that. I absolutely love that kind of dirty note in a whiskey. But balances really well with those softer floral notes. And it was just great. And I've said that this one's a real thinker. The longer it's in the glass, the more Dunnage warehouse comes through, the more sulphur notes come through. But I'm in two minds to think it's an older whiskey or is it a younger, watered down Ben Nevis was my kind of 2 hits for it. And that was my tasting notes. They just sent me that through. They never told me what it was, but I always remember this one standing out for me. And I think that's pretty cool. And I thought, I said, I'm always going to open it because it's not got my name on it, but I know I've been a part of this bottle. So it's pretty cool in that sense. That Ardmore's just getting better and better. That still smells funky and everything. I love that. So Reb is asking, it is a Glen Laird, one word, and it's an export only, bottled by Stravaig Spirits, so stravaigspirits.com, Stravaig, or Tricara. So it's 48%, 10 years old, single malt from the Highland area. But Tricara, don't ask me to spell that because I don't think I've got a glass in front of me with its name on it. That makes it more difficult for me. So I'm going to finish my Ardmore, and then I'll have a wee sample of that, and then we can all go and have a wee comfort break and go and watch Ralphie and Mr. Roy Duff. I think that'll be the good way to finish off. Aye, that 31-year-old Ardmore was magic. If I had to put them in order tonight, it would be the Ardmore first, the 31-year-old, the 15-year-old Ben Rinnes, 26-year-old Cragganmore, then the Auchentoshan 10. That would be my order of how I enjoyed them. So what else do we have? Whiskey 101, soon as you read that, fits in a bell bottle funny. Yeah, any issues, Reb, just drop me a wee message, Instagram or wherever, and I can send you the correct spelling through. See, the thing with that, with Tricara and Stravaig, I don't get paid for it. It was just a competition that I won, and I got to do tasting notes for them, and it's been really fun. It's been a new insight to whiskey for me and how I see it and how I taste it. To have genuinely getting sent 6 samples with the number 1 to 6 on them, and then you get to write all your notes and send them back is quite cool, and they get to tell you what ones they really liked and what they agree on and what they don't. It's pretty cool. You know, there's no pressure in that sense of it's just a whiskey to test, right? So blind tasting, if you can ever do blind tasting, just always do it. I think that's a great way to taste whiskey. I absolutely love it. Stravaig Glen Laird 10. Yes, Reb, that's the one. Hopefully this will maybe focus for you. I'm not too sure because I'm 7 seconds behind in my leak here. Right, everyone, let's all go for a comfort break, get our drams poured, let's all jump over to the V-pub and watch the 2 legends do what they do best. Just by sheer coincidence tonight, this is jumped in line with them. I'm just on my annual leave just now. I'm on holiday, and this was the only time that worked for me. I'm in golfing first thing in the morning, and I'm out in Glasgow tomorrow. So I did plan to do it tomorrow, but I just had no time. Potentially be in Edinburgh over the weekend. So if I am, just drop us a message if anyone's going to be about, and I'll happily meet up for a wee dram. Go to my favourite spot, which is the Ensign Oort up near the castle. Just absolutely love it in there. But I'm going to go and jump off. Going to go and clean up in here, make sure that wee fruit fly is having the time of his life. So you'd probably be laughing at me for my camera work and everything at the very start, thinking I had it down to a T, but obviously not. But I'll see you all over at Mr. Aquavitti's channel, so I'll see you shortly. I won't get this all cleaned up. So Reb saying we'll do it again. Definitely, I'll try and do it again. I'll try and do it a bit more often if I can. I would love to do it more often, just have a better setup. That'd be the best for me. Gerben saying very nice, thank you, buddy. Thanks for the organising game. I was going to say this would not have to be the last time. Yeah, hopefully I can do it again. I'll hopefully do it in a better quality. It'll be funny if one day I'll take a wee picture and show you my setup and show you how simple it is compared to others. But I've got other things in store. I do have other things I would love to try and do. Just time consuming and getting to places is what's causing that, to get more content out there. But I will do it. I will do it in time. Right, everyone. See you all over there if you're going over. If not, I'll see you again, and I'll put another wee live on at some point in time. If you've got any suggestions on how you'd like them to run, just drop me a message. But as always, I've been Kevin from KevinGrantOnWhisky. Join me next week. Let's talk whiskey. Slange.